This is Amy Murphy, and this is my substance abuse counseling presentation. My substance I chose was alcohol. The facts about alcohol. It's a drug found in all alcoholic drinks like beer, wine, and liquor such as vodka and whiskey. And it's simply any drink that contains ethyl alcohol. That's the type of alcohol that is in the alcohol we drink. It's best understood as a drug that reduces a person's ability to think rationally and distorts his or her judgment. It's a depressant drug, so it slows down sections of the brain and central nervous system, and this affects your ability to control your behavior and your bodily functions, like thinking, talking, walking, and even breathing. A little timeline about alcohol in the United States. First came to America, the early colonists in the 16th and 17th centuries. Wine was first made in Florida. The first beer was brewed in 1587 in the New World in Virginia, and it was made from Indian corn or maize. And later in the 1600s through the 1700s, it was widely and heavily used in the colonies, and it was viewed positively to use alcohol, but its abuse was condemned. During the 18th century, hard cider was often served as a currency in the American colonies, and by 1770 the colonies had more than 140 rum distilleries, and they made about 4.8 million gallons annually. And up to the 19th century, the consumption of spirits dominated drinking in the United States. More and more personal, social, and moral problems were being blamed on alcohol. And by the 1800s, cocktails were invented. Then came the temperance movement in the 1800s, basically calling for voluntary abstention from drinking. Many other temperance groups popped up around the country. The major one was the American Temperance Union, and it mostly just called for people to moderate their drinking, and it definitely condemned overuse or abuse of alcohol. The 1900s, prohibition goes into effect. In 1933, it's repealed, and in 1935, Alcoholics Anonymous is established. In 1960 to the present, American Alcohol Association defines alcoholism as a complex disease, recommends treatment through rehab, counseling, and education. And although we do have a better understanding of the harms of alcohol use, excessive drinking continues to be a problem today. The short-term effects of alcohol: slurred speech, drowsiness, vomiting, diarrhea, upset stomach, headaches, breathing difficulties, distorted vision and hearing, unconsciousness, impaired judgment, decreased perception and coordination, anemia or loss of red blood cells, coma, blackouts, and there's also even death included in there. Long-term effects of alcohol: if you continued alcohol use in large amounts, problems can include unintentional injuries such as car crashes, falls, etc. Intentional injuries such as firearm injuries, sexual assault, domestic violence, on-the-job injuries, definitely increase family problems and broken relationships. Alcohol poisoning, high blood pressure can result, including and also stroke and other heart-related diseases, liver disease, and nerve damage. Some of the screening tools for alcoholism, one of the better ones, I believe, is the CAGE screening tool, and this just includes 4 questions, which is usually self-assessed. And the 4 questions are: have you ever felt you should cut down on your drinking? Have people annoyed you by criticizing your drinking? Have you ever felt guilty about your drinking? And have you ever had an eye-opener or a drink first thing in the morning to steady your nerves? And generally, with the CAGE, 1 or more positive answers indicates there should be a closer look at the drinking problem and patterns, and 2 or more positives indicate that there is a problem. Another screening tool is the audit screening tool, and this is made up of 10 questions concerning hazardous drinking, alcohol dependency, and harmful alcohol use. It can be used by healthcare providers and also by social service providers, which is a benefit. It's available in a number of languages. And for different cultures, adjustments can be made for different customs, including serving size, the strength of the drinks, and so forth. So that can be adjusted. Clinical screening procedures, such as lab testing, blood work, things like that, can only be administered by qualified healthcare professionals and as a self-report. It can be administered as a self-report or as an interview, but that can definitely be a con where the screening procedures, the clinical ones, can only be administered by qualified healthcare professionals. What you can do to prevent alcohol abuse: you can choose not to drink too much yourself and help others not to drink too much. You can moderate your drinking if you do choose to drink, which is considered, moderation would be no more than 1 drink per day for a woman and no more than 2 drinks per day for men. You can talk to your healthcare provider about your drinking behavior and request counseling or treatment if you think you drink too much. And lastly, do not serve or provide alcohol to those who should not be drinking. What communities can do to prevent alcohol abuse: you can implement effective prevention strategies for excessive alcohol use, such as community programs, education, things like that. Enforce existing laws and regulations about alcohol sales and service. Develop community coalitions that build partnerships with schools, law enforcement, healthcare, and public health agencies to reduce excessive alcohol use. And monitor and report the prevalence, frequency, and intensity of binge drinking within the community. Alcohol abuse, some treatment methods for the problem with a goal of sobriety. Some treatment methods are medical alcohol detox, alcohol counseling, medications, which include naltrexone, Vivitrol, Campril, and antabuse, inpatient and residential treatment, and also self-care or abstinence. And the case study I chose was of Jennifer. Jennifer is a 32-year-old single mom of 2 young boys. Recently, she lost her job as a hotel receptionist and has been unable to find another position with similar pay and benefits. However, her anxiety over her situation has become out of hand, and she is always depressed. In order to take away the feelings of helplessness, inadequacy, and failure, Jennifer has begun to drink more and more frequently. On occasion, she has driven while intoxicated with the children in the car and has even begun to black out by their bedtime. She shows little interest in her children and their activities. In the past, Jennifer drank alcohol only occasionally and only on nights out without her boys. Her family has noticed the changes and increased drinking patterns. They have become concerned that she has been pushing them away as they try to help her. She has begun avoiding her friends and isolating in her home, often drinking alone and in the morning. So the 6 stages of Jennifer's drinking: the abstention stage. As a teen, Jennifer did not drink alcohol or use other substances at all. Throughout high school, she focused on her schoolwork as she aspired to attend a prestigious college. She rarely went to parties and did not hang out with a drinking crowd. On to the experimental stage. As a college student, Jennifer met new friends who frequently attended parties and drank alcohol. Jennifer tried drinking a few times. The recreational and social stage: Jennifer began going out to parties more often on the weekends and usually had a few drinks on those nights. Other times, she would make plans that did not involve alcohol. Moving on to the dependent stage, Jennifer began drinking earlier and earlier in the day, sometimes needing an eye-opener first thing in the morning to steady her shakes. She was isolating from her friends and family, usually drinking alone in her home. In the abuse stage, when Jennifer lost her job and her anxiety and depression increased, she began drinking almost daily. Though she did not drink until the boys were in bed, she drank each night to excess. And finally,